In 2015, 7 Arab-American actors that had appeared in blockbuster productions such as NCIS and Marvel's Iron Man sat down with GQ magazine for an article titled "You May Know Me from Such Roles as Terrorist Number 4." Describing the frustrating cycle of being an Arab actor in Hollywood, the men shared similar stories of only receiving auditions for the roles of terrorists and having to accept those offers in order to pay the bills, despite feeling that they're enabling the misrepresentation of their ethnicity. While the stereotyping of minorities in the film and television industry is by no means uncommon.
Okay, Libya, exports.
Yes, sir, you American pig.
Nice touch.
No region or ethnicity has been vilified on screen as consistently as the Middle East and its citizens. After analysing the representation of the Middle East in over 1,000 films, renowned scholar Jack Shaheen concluded that all aspects of our culture project the Arab as a villain. That is a given. There is no deviation. But how did this perception develop? Let's go back in time a bit. During the 19th century, Europeans began to explore the Middle East, partly drawn to the region by the religious significance of Jerusalem, but also driven by the financial incentives, social respectability and employment opportunities that were rewarded for successful exploration. Explorers arrived in the region with a mentality shaped by the European imperialist ambitions of the time, and the experiences they brought back with them to Europe were coloured by notions of religious and cultural superiority. The published literature and artwork depicting these experiences formed a significant part of Europe's understanding of Islam, the Middle East and its citizens. In the 1970s, Palestinian professor Edward Said critiqued this understanding in his renowned work Orientalism, arguing that because knowledge is built incrementally, starting with a flawed foundation taints our present-day understanding of the region.
And one of the great problems with Orientalism to begin with is these vast generalizations about Islam and the nature of Islam. I mean, there's very little in common.
An Orientalist view of the Middle East enables a divide between us and the other, and simultaneously romanticizes a land perceived as foreign and exotic.
So in the case of United States, for example, as kids begin watching such movies that depicts Arab lands as extremely violent and extremely hostile to others, even if you don't know anything about Islam, you will adopt the idea that these people are somehow more violent and less human than other people.
Sir Richard Burton was a prominent author and explorer who translated 1001 Arabian Nights, a collection of Arab stories that included Aladdin and Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Over time, the exaggerated folktales have become synonymous with the West view of the East, and growing up, they're our first introduction to the region. Let's look at a few scenes from Disney's Aladdin.
Oh, I come from a land, from a faraway place, where the caravan camels roam. Where it's flat and immense and the heat is intense. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
Within the first 30 seconds, the lyrics of the opening Arabian Nights have already romanticized the film's backdrop as a foreign and primitive desert. Ordinary Arab civilians throughout the film are portrayed as barbaric in motive and incompetent in actions. Guards and stall owners in the marketplace are burly with missing teeth and foreign accents, and despite being part of a sword-bearing mob, are repeatedly outwitted by Aladdin and his monkey. On the other hand, Aladdin and Jasmine are attractive, charming, have American accents, and often rebel against what they view to be an oppressive environment.
You're not free to make your own choices.
As a result, the characters that we are influenced to identify with as a Western audience are the ones who look, talk, and think like us, which can have significant social and political implications.
For example, if you give such a kind of enemy in the American political context, then it will give you a false sense of fighting against some kind of enemies, and that will help you a lot politically. But the same polarizing image is also used by the Muslim radicals or fundamentalists in order to claim that they are actually at war with some other civilization, they are under the attack of another civilization.
A poll conducted during the 2016 US election asked a sample of voters if they would support or oppose bombing Agrabah, the fictional city in Aladdin. 30% of Republicans and 19% of Democrats said they would support the idea.
Welcome to Agrabah.
Aladdin is by no means an isolated example, with the West's misrepresentation of the region evident in major productions that include Scooby-Doo in Arabian Nights.
Like, what's this stuff?
That is hummus patini.
Yeah, but like, what is it? Mashed garbanzo beans in tahini sauce.
What's tahini sauce?
Tahini sauce is good. Eat!
Okay.
Back to the Future.
Run for it, Marty! Who? Who do you think? The Libyans! Holy shit!
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Sex and the City 2.
Well, I could get into the head wrap, but the veil across the mouth, it freaks me out.
And more recently, Game of Thrones. While as an audience we might feel as if we are escaping to worlds unlike our own, the same Orientalist stereotypes underpin both realities.
But this idea that somehow we should protect ourselves against the infiltrations, the infections of the other, is, I think, the most dangerous idea at the end of the 20th century. And unless we find ways to do it, and there are no shortcuts to it, unless we find ways to do this, there's going to be wholesale violence of the sort.
Challenging a way of thinking that has been inherently developed for centuries can seem overwhelming, but it's not impossible. As an industry, it starts with casting Arab actors in Arab roles, writing Arab characters that have range and depth, and collaborating with Middle East creative consultants to ensure the project accurately reflects the region. As an audience, it starts with becoming more conscious of the content we're presented with, because despite what is consistently reinforced, whether deliberate or unintentional, there is no us and them. As part of the article we spoke about at the beginning of the segment, GQ also reached out to Howard Gordon, the executive producer of 24 and Homeland. After being accused by audiences of Islamophobia in 24, Gordon said he came to a sobering realization. We all have our personal biases and fears. I suspect we're wired to feel threatened by the other, and I include myself in that category. With the consistent reiteration of Orientalist themes and stereotypes in film and television, from casting through to distribution, it's not surprising that Islam and the Middle East are perceived as a threatening other in our modern culture. The challenge we now have is to rework that internal wiring and rebuild that foundation of understanding. We have to go to a break, but stick around as actor Amir Rahimzadeh and Senior Lecturer of Middle East Studies Dr. Matt Hardy join me to discuss Amir's experiences in the industry and Matt's paper on how Game of Thrones mirrors the Middle East.